music. Who the fuck is Juanton? Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Bring it back. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Bring it back. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Bring it back. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Bring it back. Just move. I'm in a groove. 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 Just move. I'm in a groove.
up, y'all? Yo, what's up, y'all? We're back. Juanton here. Hopefully, a few of you guys tuning in from last week. I see you guys in here. Let me know in the chat. Say what's up. By the way, that last hot track we're listening to, Roy Havens featuring Chocolate Sushi. That's two original SF artists working together. Dope collaboration. When the beat go check that track out. Support your homies for real. All right, so welcome back. Week 3. I'm really stoked. Yo, happy Monday. Nice to see Anthony's Moda in here. Kicking ass every week. Boy wants to produce. I like that, man. Quick news, really quick. If you haven't already, check out my newsletter. That's at juantonmusic.com/Twitch, I believe. Sign up for the newsletter. You may get some free downloads in this coming week. I got some ideas, some Ableton racks I want to share with you guys. Once I can figure out how to share those. And maybe even some exclusive Juanton tracks that I have not released. So make sure to go sign up if you haven't already. And of course, as always, hit that follow button on Twitch and YouTube. Subscribe. All right, so what are we going to work on this week? First, I really wanted to focus this week on drum grooves, on how we can get kind of some groove, some syncopation in our tracks, and how does swing play into that? How do the groove pulls work in Ableton? So a lot of stuff I want to break down there, so we're going to get into it. I'm going to work on adding some percussion. I'm also going to show you guys how I use like sampler and drum racks and how you can get groove out of those. So a couple things we're going to go through today. Finally, as always, a quick Q&A at the end, and I'm going to be listening to demo submissions. So if you guys want me to listen to your track and give feedback, just send your track to juan@juantonmusic.com. Send me an email, and I'll get to it at the end of this stream. So let's get into this. All right, got Ableton here. So I wanted to start off by looking at my template. This is how I start my tracks as of right now. So this template, I'll bring this thing up and then I'm just ready to work. So a couple things I want to draw your attention to. First thing first is always my kick, right? So I got my kick track here. I just have a FabFilter Pro Q on it with nothing. It's just blank, ready to go. And then I have this high pass kick. It's just a filter preset I have saved that just has FabFilter, a little filter on it, and you can set like the resonance here or the frequency, right? Just to get it right, because I guarantee at some point I'm going to high pass my kick. So I have that here. I also have something very similar on my bass, typically high pass kick. It's the exact same plugin that I've saved, or exact same rack. I have my LFO tool sidechain, though I may start just honestly replacing this with a kickstart, because that's what I've been doing mostly in my tracks. Never hurts to have utilities. So then my kick and my drums channel. So I have a drums channel here, has a clap grouped because I typically have more than one layer on my clap. Just a drum rack here for me to just start finding drums. My main open hat as well is a group for that, where I have these kind of plugins that I like to use, just some compression to really shape the hat the way I like it. On the hat itself, I always have a saturator set up. My tops, I have the side chains, which I've shown in previous stream. Show you how that clap and the open hat are automatically side chained to my tops there. One top track, I could just duplicate this for more. So finally, got a perks and a Vox group. Not much to go through there. All my drums and my kicks come to a drums bus, where I just have like this PuigTech EQ. I actually use this for low end, so probably take this off, but could use it to both boost and attenuate certain signals. It's really pleasing EQ synopsis so that I can check my levels as I'm doing stuff on the drums. And then an LFO, and this is just to analyze like my waveforms as I'm looking. Finally, I got a master chain. Everything runs through the master chain where I just already have Fab Filter set up. So this is how I start a track. I have Fab Filter set up with a limiter, 0 gain. It's doing nothing. It's just a true peak limiter. It just, let me close this. It's just catching the peaks so that my master chain isn't peaking, because then I'm going to have distortion while I'm listening to it. So I'm always mixing into this limiter, and I'm mixing to 0. So what that means is that I set my kick at 0 and I set everything else relative to that. So it's like I'm mixing at full volume. So when compared to my reference track, they should always be at the same volume. If his kick is this loud, then my kick should be this loud. Obviously, those tracks are limited and go through full mastering chains, and I'm just doing limiting, but it'll get you pretty close, and it'll highlight issues in your mix before you send it to a mastering engineer who would put it through a limiter first thing and be like, oh, hey, this clap is too sharp right here. The transient's too high. You need to fix that. Well, if you just mix into a limiter the whole time, then you're going to catch those things earlier. Anyway, so that's kind of how I set up my template. I open this up. I have my side chains. These are just click tracks that will make my sidechain compressors that are already set up, like duck for the kick, clap, etc. So you can see it's already set up with like a kick clap pattern. I think my kick's actually off. But so yeah, what I can do here is just duplicate these over for the whole track as I need them. But finally, a reference, which if I do Shift R, I believe will solo itself so that I can check against my reference. So right off the bat, these things are always set up for me. Save yourself time. Make production fun. Ideas are fleeting. If you don't get your ideas out quick because you're spending time just freaking creating tracks and doing all your routing, creativity's gone, and now your idea is gone. And you need to get them down as fast as you can. So that's why I like to start with this. Now let's get into it. First thing I'm going to do is find a kick. That's pretty punchy. Just going to stick it on here. And we're going to, so if you do Command 1 and 2, you can see down here in this corner that it tells you what the distance is between your markers here. So I'm going to just get it straight to quarters so that I can duplicate this kick. Highlight that, duplicate that, just consolidate that, Command J, duplicate that across. All right. So now I got a beat going, 4 bars. And I'm just going to stick with this first bar anyway for now. Command L after highlighting that. So I can, is there a little click on there? Okay. A little better. And then we can consolidate that. Cool. Now let's get ourselves a clap. For the clap, so what I will typically do, this is just an audio, but typically what I do is I use a drum rack to pick a bunch of clap samples and just kind of cycle through, pick my favorite clap. For today, I'm just going to pick probably a decently default clap from a pack that I really like. That's nice. Oh, look, it's already a loop too. How nice. So my clap, let's see, is already sending to reverb. Cool. And see, there's another thing I didn't actually talk about. My return's already set up, so I have a tiled room. This is like a drum room, so I'll send like my brightest drums to this. I have a dark wood room. This dark wood room, you can see my EQ there. I got Valhalla room, and then it's a little more mono. This I use for like percussions. It's a darker reverb, and it's still short so that it's not taking up too much space in the mix. I have a plate reverb. This I use mostly for like vocals or synths when I'm trying to create some size. Finally, I got a hall reverb. This is to push sounds to the back, especially if I'm doing some kind of like automation where I have something moving forward and back in the mix. This is a darker reverb as well. You can see the EQ going into the reverb, and it's actually a little bit longer. I want to say it's about a second. Yeah, 0.97 seconds of decay. So because of that, my clap, I can just send my clap here a little bit into that first room just to create a bit of a room for our drums. Great. Let's get into this. What last thing we need is an open hat. This is the basis of all house music here. So let's go find one. Maybe just like a 909 hat right off the bat. Roland TR 909. There we go. Whoops. Open hat track. Drop it in here. Okay, now I'm going to change this, to 16ths. It's already there for us. And what we're going to do is put this it's actually eighths, sorry. Eighths. We're going to put this every off eighth. So if this is the on beat, because this is beat 65, then the first eighth would be the off eighth, then this would be the on eighth again, and it just repeats. So that'll be important again later when we're looking at 16ths. It's screaming. Okay, now we're talking. All right, so that's your basis, right, of any drum beat. It's basically on, right? There's no groove there yet, but it still is kind of like the driving force of basically any house or techno beat. I guess techno, you probably take out your claps, right? So for house music and tech house music, everything else that you add after this is your style. This is house music. Everything else is your style. So first thing that I'm going to do is dive into some percussion. So I guess the main thing that we want to talk about was groove, right? And how we can add groove to our elements or swing to the elements in our drums. And one of the easiest ways is to get it from sample packs, right? So go find loops, go find percussion loops, because those are probably going to have a lot of swing, a lot of groove. And you can rely on those to be the groove part of your element, the groove part of your drums, right? And then another good way to go from that, if you're having trouble, like maybe you're using your own hats or something and they sound really robotic, then we can use those percussion loops to kind of guide the swing and groove that we add to our like actual sampler or drum rack. So I'll show you guys how we can do that here. So first things first, I'm just going to start looking around for perk tracks. What I'll do is that I just come into my perk track here. I'm just going to duplicate this a couple times. So yeah, I got like 6 or 7 there. Just Command D to duplicate. And then I'm going to just start looking for perk samples. So I'm going to start my working samples. Just type perk or maybe even loop. And let's start looking around. We got Claude Von Stroke. He's got some loops, drum loops, tom loops, percussion. Okay, that's pretty nasty. collapse some of these. And see, just already we're getting a lot of groove. This just has a lot of reverb on it, huh? Take off that tail. Okay. Okay. So it already warped it for us. I'm actually going to change this to beats, I think, because beats is what you typically want to use for drum warping. And is it warped? It's actually already at 124. The sample is, and I'm at 124. So I'm actually just going to turn off warping. Well, actually, you can leave it on because let me show you guys this trick. So if you change this, I don't even know what this is called. Your transient loop mode. You can change your transient loop mode to this singular option here. So it's just gonna just find like single transients a little better. And what you could do is you can actually reduce this. And I wish it would show you like what that did over here in the waveform. But what it's doing is it's just kind of like taking off a little bit of decay or a little bit of the sustain on the drum notes. So if we just listen to it by itself. So there's a little bit more resonance. And now that kind of disappears, a little bit of background noise. I don't know if you guys can hear that. It's pretty subtle, but it's just clearing out a little bit of space. So if you just if you do this on a lot of percussion loops that you bring in, you're going to just kind of make all your drums a little snappier. And now because it's taking up a little bit less room, I can actually saturate it a little bit more without saturating all that noise that was in there. And that's going to help you get your drums to pop out a little more. So just going to go ahead and do that right off the bat. Honestly, for percussion, that's already sounding pretty cool. So I'm just going to delete these other percussion tracks really quick. And I'm going to work on some tops. Just type in top here, my working samples. So I keep different sample folders. I have this main sample one. This is literally all my samples. And this is even organized. There's like a bunch of samples that my friends have given me or some that maybe aren't that popping to me. This one has like a whole bunch to itself because that's where I get them from. But I keep this working samples folder, which is like my favorite sample packs. These are the sample packs that have drums or produced by artists that I really trust. I know that these sounds are good and that they're going to keep the quality of my drums good. So the secret number one to having good drums is picking good drum samples. Just pick a couple really good high quality packs. I really recommend anything by Trademark series Tool Room. The Tool Room packs are all really good. This Mark Knight one, I swear you could just use only this pack and you're gonna make pretty hot house music. It might sound like a lot of everybody else's music because a lot of people use the Mark Knight samples, but the kicks are like damn near club kicks, ready to go right out of the pack. The claps are saturated, and the loops are funky. So definitely check that one out if you need one. But guys, like I really recommend just finding sample packs that really fit your sound that you're trying to find, and use those as the basis, especially for these starting elements: your kick, your clap, and your hi hat, and your main percussion elements, because that's really going to set the quality apart of your track right off the bat. It's going to put you in the right direction. Okay, so here we go. Next thing we want to do is some hats, some tops. So you got some questions here in the chat. Don't know much drum and bass, brother. I do like drum and bass for sure. So feel free to send it, man. I'll give you the best opinion feedback I can, but like I don't know too much production advice specifically tailored to drum and bass. So I'll just do my best. And at the very least, you'll get everybody else's ears on it. And we're a community here, so we always help each other. Yep, we all need opinions on the whips, man. Seriously, getting feedback is the most important thing you can do for yourself. Are those loops swung in the same way, or do you like to use all sorts of different swings? That's a good question. I'll get into that a little deeper when I break down swing over here in a few minutes. Funk Gus, thanks for the follow. Shout out. But I try to use the same swing, and I'll show you guys how I do that. But you can it's kind of a fine line. Like it's okay to use different swing patterns. If things are a little off, it's okay because it's going to sound human. Like a band doesn't all play perfectly together, like right in time. But for kind of like whatever the elements are that are the really groove driving elements of your loop, whatever's like really kind of giving it the little in between syncopated hits, you want those to kind of be as aligned as possible, or at least not to be too far off. Like if one is um, I'll explain it a little better later, but if one is just slightly forward from the off 16th and one is like the opposite direction, now those things sound even further apart than if one was swung and one wasn't. So you don't want to use too many opposing swings, but you'll typically hear that. Like trust your ear. If something sounds off, it probably is off. And a lot of times when your groove feels like it's not off, what do they call it? It's the dancing test. Like stand up in your room, listen to your beat, and like try to dance to it. And if something feels like it's throwing off your rhythm, it's probably the swing on something is out of tune or out of swing with other things. So hope that explains that. We'll dive in here a little more. So let's get some topics, working samples. That's kind of cool. I don't know if that'll work. It's at 128 too. $128. That seems off too. It says it's 128. This is 128. It's weird. I feel like this should go all the way to the end. Let's hear if it sounds okay. Yeah, definitely out of time. So I don't think it's actually at 128, which is weird. But we can fix that. Yeah, so this is definitely supposed to be here. So we'll go here. We'll click. So maybe 131 is correct. Beats. That's pretty cool. All right. Still not really a top, so I'm going to come in here. That sounds a little cool. We'll see. So I like a couple things in this loop. So let me show you guys what I would do here. I typically don't keep all the loops if I'm bringing in full loops, especially percussion stuff. But what I'll do is you could go clip here, click volume. If you don't have this, it's over here. This little button down here brings it up in the clip view. And I'm just going to close this momentarily. Now, if you press B, you can draw and you can just start getting rid of things that you don't want there. So I know I don't want that hat, right? Because that's where my hat is. So I can hide that. And see how I put a little fade with this? So you click up here, and if you hold Command, it allows you to fine tune. It even does this little vertical line there, so you can see where you're like getting close to. And what I'm trying to do is just get rid of the tail of this first hit while getting this transient, allowing it to come through. And then if you hold Option, you'll see this little curve next to my arrow. You can curve this instead of just like dragging it. I don't know. Do I like this thing? I just kind of want that like bloop, little blob. Let's try this. Okay, there we go. Let's take out this main thing right off the bat. I have my own clap. Okay, so that's all I need right there. So I'm gonna click here, Command E, get rid of this side over here. And then I'm just gonna fix these so that they're decent. Fades. And I don't introduce any clicks. Whoops. I don't want to introduce any clicks into the mix. That's why you want to keep these. What is going on here? I think I have everything highlighted. Whoops. There we go. Yeah, see, like I want all this. And I think I'm getting rid of this guy. Probably want this thing. That should be good. So I'm going to click it, Command J, and you'll see the audio. There we go. Okay. Don't really want this reverby thing. Okay. Okay. So I think we got something going here. We'll add a few more tops using direct hits here in a second. So how can we get all the grooves of these elements, making sure that everything's on the same beat, right? And how can we get like our syncopated notes on the same swing as these loops? Well, what is swing, right? So swing comes from drummers back in the day. You know, jazz was getting really popular, and these drummers would be a little late on the 16ths, but not like they were just bad drummers. No, like it was part of what they did. They would kind of hesitate. So it's just like boom, bop, boom, boom, bop. And it's that kind of like hesitation that really gave it a lot of swing, a lot of funk. Um, we came to understand it later. It's syncopation, right? And then it's not only that, but having this kind of humanity to it where things aren't always on. They have kind of like a human feel to it, right? So that's where grooves come from, or at least originated, right? And then as kind of synthesizers and drum machines start coming into the world, we needed a way to recreate that. So these companies that made these drum machines, like the Roland 808, the 909, as well as these samplers and sequencers, like the MPC 60 or the SP 1200, bunch of names of things you might have heard of, right? These drum machines and sequencers, they started having groove patterns. So really what it is it's like a variation in the volumes, like how hard or lightly are you hitting the drum or the instrument, as well as like this idea of swing. And typically in house and techno, the only swing that you really use is 16th swing. So there's a slight difference between 16th and 8th swing. So let me just show you guys really quick what I mean by that. Um, the best way to look at it is to bring up like this percussion loop here, right? And get as much room as I can. So you can't see because my damn head. Let me move. Can I move it? There we go. Okay, right here, it shows the note value of like my grid here inside of my loop. So we can see here's beat 1, here's 1.2, which is the second kick, 1.3, third kick, 1.4, fourth kick, and then finally the 2 beat. This is 1 bar. Okay, so if I do command 2 until this is at half, this is half of a bar. So 1 unit is half of a bar. Wait, let me see. Yeah, see, there's like a slight difference in the damn line here. It's kind of hard to tell. So there's quarter, there's eighth lines. Go narrow. Okay, so like here's quarters, and if I move my arrow, you can see what a quarter is. If I go to halves, you can see what a half is, right? So a whole bar is from 1 to 2, then we go to quarter, finally we get to an eighth. This is about the basis of your drum beat, right? This is what we've made so far, is everything has been in eighths. But then you get to the 16ths, and now this is where groove begins. So the difference, so here's your 16ths. Here's all the 16ths in a single bar right here, right? 4 here, 4, 4, and 4. So if this is the first beat, which is the downbeat, this is what we call the on 16th. Then the next 16th over is the off 16th. And then this repeats on 16th, off 16th, on 16th, off. Your on 16ths will always be on. But when we have swing, our off 16ths will be just slightly shifted either forward or backward. That is basically swing right there. So if we look here, and we know that this is our on 16th and this is our off, and we zoom in here, what you start to see is that this isn't actually on, right? You can see that the transient actually starts over here a little bit. So what we can do is just hit our command 1 and command 2 again until the distance between here and the next marker is where this sample starts. Boom. So now that's 1 unit. That's the offset that this whole loop has in the swing. And if we look right here, it's 1/1024th. I know if you're afraid of fractions, I might be scaring you away here. Don't get scared yet. I know. 1,024th is how far our off 16ths are slightly shifted forward right now. So they're going to be late by 1,024th. So now that I know that, I can come up here to my other tracks and see like, oh, okay, this one's hitting on the off 16th. Let me go make sure, zoom in to 1024th and see where he's at. Oh, looks like he's actually shifted the other direction a little bit. So then come in here, make sure this says 16th here, zoom in to that first one. Whoops. Started warping it instead. So here's our 16th, and then we can zoom in on that, and sure enough, it's shifted forward a bit. So what we can do is just make a little warp marker there. And I like to make a warp marker after. Well, this should, because you don't want to shift everything to the left, so make one over here. And now whoops. Why can't I look at 16ths? Whoops, not 16ths. 1024th, almost forgot. That's it, right? So now I can just shift this guy so he's 1024th over. And you would just repeat this throughout your loop, and hopefully, don't do this with a super long loop. Do it with 2 bars or 1 bar. Fix every off 16th, and then just consolidate the track. Duplicate it across wherever you need to duplicate it across. That's why it's important to do this early on in the mix, like before you go full arrangement. Otherwise, you're gonna have to copy and paste it all over the place and make sure you're keeping track. But now you can see right away, like I've fixed my groove element. And if we actually look at both of these elements really close by, you'd see that the transients are starting around the same time now. So now that tells me what my swing can be. So you just pick one that you think is adding the most groove. You figure out what is the swing for that little pattern. And now you can apply that to all your audio so that all of your off 16ths are on the same. At least most of them, right? It doesn't hurt to have some things just be on the grid. If they're not important, if they're just sitting in the background, great, have them on the grid. But if they're providing a lot of the groove element, then try to get them in the same groove as the rest of your groove. And your groove elements are almost always drums, percussion, and your bass line in this genre, in dance music. It can be your vocal. It can be like a synth, there's other ways to do it. Just the same way a cowbell could be a lead. There's no hard and fast rules, but typically percussion, drums, and bass. So, okay, I'm not going to fix these on all of them, but just kind of give you guys an example there. So what do you think about that? Yeah, the shortcut to change the fractions of the grids, it's Command 1 and 2. Write that down. I need to have like a little keyboard thing that pops up when I'm doing, but Command 1 will go, you have to be not in drawing mode, but so if you're up here, it's going to change here, and if you're in a clip, it's going to change down here, but it's Command 1 goes down, it looks like. Command 2 goes up in size. And then if you do Command 3, which I do all the time, you guys probably saw me screwing around with it a second ago. Command 3 will change it to triplets. That's what the T is. So now your grid will be a triplet grid, which hangs me up quite a bit. I hit Command 3 all the time, and then I'm like, this sounds way off. Oh, yeah, it's because I put it on a third. Super weird, but people use it. Cool. Command 1 and 2. Padre Bless, what up, man? That's my man. Welcome. Glad to have you in the chat. If you don't know already, send your track to Juanton for feedback at the end. I'm talking to you, Padre Bless. You should send me that collab we did a long time ago. Anyway, let's get into this. So that's great for doing loops and getting, a good starting place for your swing. But what if you have your own element that you're doing from scratch? You have a drum rack and you're trying to add some groove to it. Um, I got the solution for you. So what we're gonna do first is I'm going to add just a quick hat. I'm a big fan of this quick hat. So the hat that's playing every 16th, I think is what it is. Um, and I use them all the time to add a lot of groove to my drums, and I'm gonna show you how here. So first, what I'm looking for here is like a straight 808 sample. I'd actually like to turn this into a drum rack. So let's go look for a drum rack. And then I'm going to get some hats. So I have this sample pack. Let's see, samples from Mars. I think I bought their whole library. Like Black Friday was like $39 or something, but they have all these really good sampled packs from the 808 and the 909 drum kit that I use all the time, as well as some from like the MP60. So if you guys don't know, the MP60 and the SP1200 are really popular samplers you guys probably heard of. All they were is they were sample machines. So like what we have a drum rack and we have sampler now in Ableton. Well, they had the MPC and they had the SP1200. The difference is that the SP1200 and the MP60 had their own flavors of groove and swing, and it was just as simple as a knob. You just put groove on the whole thing and it did it for you. Um, and they actually had really good grooves. So if you can ever find sample packs that are from an MPC 60 or from a SP1200, if you use samples that have gone through those, that's essentially what they did. So samples from Mars took probably a bunch of popular drum kits and then put them through the MP60, right? And recorded those. So now it has like the saturation, the warmth, everything that came with the MPC 60 built into the sample already. It's another little cheat code for getting good samples. Anyways, coming back, I just want a quick 808 hi-hat. I don't have contact. Oh, you know what it is? I have my search. Okay, cool. Individual hits. I'm going to go get hi-hat. Do I not have any here? 909 from Mars. Okay. Maybe my samples don't want to come out today and play. That's all right. Here's some. One of these. New follower, welcome to the crew. What's up? If you guys haven't already, make sure to click follow and subscribe below. Spicy Boys Club, what's up? Did a couple more. In case I don't like these ones, let's go get some other hats. We'll go back to our working samples. I'm also a fan of Vengeance. Let's go play with some Vengeance samples, or ZDS actually. ZDS is dope. Oh, he just has some loops. Not what I'm looking for. It's because I just have hat. All right. Vengeance. Central Club Sounds. No. Central Tech House. Falls under cymbals. Okay, closed hats. I like those two. Just get a few out of here. Maybe like that. Okay, that's enough. So just highlight our section. Command Shift M creates a new MIDI track. And now what I'm looking for is, of course, 16ths. So with 16ths, I think I could just do every 16th. How robotic, right? So what are we going to do here right off the bat? So, okay, you guys probably already know that you have your little velocity things over here. They start at 100. They can go higher. I'll typically get all of them and just set them not all the way up because it's kind of like blaring. Like you really need to hit it as hard as possible. No, not really, but a little over 100 is fine. Just so because it'll give me some more room to have other things lower. The important thing with this is that your sampler, so whatever this is, it has to have velocity sensitivity. So I always use sampler. So you can switch it to sampler. If you didn't know, you can switch them here. Switch it to a sampler. You're going to come over to the filter global tab, and you're going to make sure that this here, this is the velocity less volume less than velocity, whatever. What it means is that this is kind of like a dry wet knob for how much the velocity in this MIDI is going to affect the volume of your sample as it's playing. And I think you can even, yeah, you can even have velocity be changing time as well. I don't ever use that too much, but that is kind of like one way in itself to find new grooves and to change the timing of things so that they aren't super on. But what I'm going to do here is just have the volume around 50, 45%. I actually have it default. So if you right click on sampler, you can save as default preset. Every single sampler will always have volume velocity. This took me forever to figure out. I remember being so annoyed in Ableton, not understanding why I didn't have like velocity sensitivity here. So one quick way that I've always done this is that really you just kind of want a pattern here of groove, because the way that people move isn't going to be 100% the same, but they might have some like, I guess, kind of pattern in the way that they're hitting, like heavy, light, light, light. That's what I'm doing here, right? So I'm just going to duplicate this over really quick so we can hear what that does. So right off the bat, and then in comparison with unquantized or like without any velocity changes, you'll hear the difference. With it, without it. So it's already kind of like pumping, right? So that's a really quick one, just a little bit of a pumping effect. I use this in my tracks quite a bit. And then in the mix, let me get the whole loop duplicated over just so you can hear the difference. But listen to the difference between this side with just a little bit of volume automation versus this side. Right? I hope you guys can feel that already. This feels a lot more danceable. And another way that you can achieve this really easily is just using like LFO tool. LFO tool is a huge tool in my arsenal, man. I use this thing all the time. And I really recommend that you guys use it as well. Support Steve Duda, who created it. I think it's like $45 or something. And it's just a Swiss Army knife, man. It's good for so many things. But in this case, what you can do is use it to create literally some volume automation, because look, this is like basically the same thing that we're currently doing, right? The volume is going to decrease as you go down. But you want to have this early in your chain so that everything, so that the swing is already applied before you apply any other dynamics processing, anything like that, anything that's going to change the volume. Cool. So now it's kind of like loud, quiet, loudish, quiet. So kind of like that's just a common pattern there. So basically the same thing you can do here, right? But at the end of the day, what it really comes down to is just changing these things. And what you'd want to do is to really get a kind of cohesive groove across your drum mix is have different drums playing like similar patterns, so similar groove patterns. So let's do something a little different because this one's really simple. Let's do like hard, soft, hard, softer. We'll duplicate that. And let's go add a little bit of swing. We already know how to do that, right? So if these are all 16ths, then we know that this is the off 16th. What are we going to do? 1/1024th. And we're just going to bump them over. Now it's going to get rid of that one. So you want to draw back on that. And then I'm actually going to copy that, delete all these other guys. Duplicate that so that I have the swing value, and boom. So that's cool. Let me try out some of these other ones. Let me make sure this is on time. It feels like it's a little. Cool. So those are too quiet. I need to bring them up to be able to tell if I like it. Let's see. Oh, see, so the simpler has the same thing, volume velocity. I'm going to turn this up to 0 maybe. I'm going to stick an LFO tool on this too really quick. Actually, I already have one. This really. Not really LFO tool. This is a compressor. This I use to tighten my hat. It's not really going to accomplish what I want. I want to make this kind of shorter right now. Maybe too short there. Sounds weird. Okay, so might just replace this hat here later. Not really digging it. So you can see kind of how I created some drum groove there. And I'm going to do one other type of groove here because that's a little simple. 16ths, right? Let's actually, I'm going to do it down here. I want to add a cowbell. Cowbells are fun and they can be very funky. So that's a perfect element to have some swing on. And to do this, I'm going to do one more type of way to get swing. This one's actually one of my favorites. So I already told you guys about the drum kits. So I have the 808 drum kit that I use from Roland. They have Roland Cloud. Let me make sure it's working because it'll sound like crap if it's not. That's not it. Roland. Cool. So Roland Cloud. It's like $20 a month or something. It's kind of pricey, but you can get your samples saved and resampled and only use it for a few months. But they have just a bunch of like software emulations of their real hardware that they created over the years. The 808, the 909, 707 drum kits, obviously really popular. But there are other things like the Juno synth, and for me, the TB303, the very iconic acid synthesizer. They have like an emulation of that as well, which is really good because You may or may not even realize it, but when you're trying to recreate those sounds like acid sounds or certain drum kits, you're just trying to recreate like the 808 or the 303, the sound that is iconic. And the easiest way to recreate it is to just use the equipment. Cheat code, seriously. Use these things because they already have the swing. They do things like certain sidechain compression that I've found in there. And they have like a lot of other sequencing tools for drums and stuff. So kind of a cheat code here. Let me show you. Plugins, VST3. Boom. It's also a CPU hog. So don't have too many running. All right, so we have our kit here. And what you do is you click edit here. This allows you to change the pattern. So just gonna listen to this alone. See, classic 808 beat. So I'm just gonna go through some different kits. Want one with the cowbell. So there's a difference between patterns and kits, right? So the kits are just kind of like people tuned, basically presets of different drum kits. There's one I like in here. Tech Groove, maybe. Cool. So then we'll go find our cowbell. Here we go. And I'm just gonna mute everything else. So the first thing you got to do is click this. Actually, no, I'll do it this way. So I'm gonna mute all these other things besides the cowbell. So now you can see that it's playing this sequencer, this drum machine, and this plays all on its own. And I'll show you guys how we extract this to MIDI after here in a second. But it's just playing just like an old drum machine would. It's sequencing through, and you can see it down here. We just have no cowbells in this pattern. So I'm gonna start adding some cowbells. There we go. And you can change the scale, I think. I just want to do it once through. Okay, back in my beat. This guy's acting weird. Let's go back to my basic kit. There we go. Oh, I see. This thing's moving. Cool. So everything's muted. I really wish it was just one step. So, trying to figure out which scales these are. All right, I'm gonna add my bass drum just because it helps give me a groove. Okay. See, it's super weird that it's like starting back here. Okay, so first of all, so you can see like this is kind of like a just like your what do you call it? Clip in Ableton, the clip view. So if I turn off all these other things, it makes it a little easier to see the cowbell. But here's my cowbell pattern. So when you're trying to make like funky groovy things, one really quick way to do it is to just kind of like jump 16ths. So if this is a 16th, we're going to hit it twice. We're going to jump 1/16 and hit again. Then we're skipping 3. And here, see this is one of my favorites. Skipping 2/16 and landing really kind of gives a funk too. And another one that's really good is like the beat just before the last 16th before the downbeat is another good one where if you just have it, it kind of creates like a leading movement is what I like to call it into the next one. But anyway, I just wanted to show you how to create a cool pattern and then export it. Kind of struggling with this right now, to be honest with you. But one cool pattern here, one cool thing about the 808 is it gives you this shuffle, right? And I typically actually do like a whole set of drums, not just the cowbells. I would do like the drum, the maybe the hat, the clap together, the rim shot for sure, maybe the toms. I would play with them all until I have a pattern I like. And what's nice is when you twist this shuffle knob, it's going to shuffle everything with the same shuffle or the same swing, so same groove. It's all the same. It's all the same word, different words for the same thing. But what's really cool with this is that what you can do is now drag. You can click this A and drag it onto the channel. Yes. And now that same drums that I was using are here. I have the MIDI for it, including the bass notes, which I don't want. So I'm going to get rid of those. And then another really important part is I think if you click the option here, you have to do position lock to draw. Yeah, so when you click that position lock to DAW, you unclick it, it will just read MIDI instead of playing as a drum machine. So now these things are a little off, so probably want to move them. It's like completely out of time. I don't know what's up with my 808. It's a little finicky, these damn plugins. There's no like BPM to it, so it just doesn't seem to be getting the BPM correctly from the host, which is really weird. But hopefully I should be able to just draw in here, so let's try that instead. Kind of what I was getting at is that you can do that, export it, and then you'd be able to see the shuffle pattern that they're using, but in practice it's acting out really weird, so maybe don't use those plugins. Let me struggle silently over here. So, okay, 16th, I'm just going to put them on. If you hold Option 2, it duplicates. So when you hold Option, click this, drag it around, and let go, it'll create like a new one. So that's a quick way to make patterns. Okay, we're going to turn that up. And there's actually a knob in here that I can do. Just get some more volume out of it. As well as the cowbell. It's here, so turn that level up. Okay, now we can turn that down a bit. Okay, so got some going there. So now I can just start lowering some of these velocities. Maybe I think I liked it better this way. Since these are both off 16ths. Well, we can do the shuffle in a sec. Okay, I want to have a second one here, but I want it to just be really quiet. So those are nice and funky now. So just having those velocity changes adds so much to that. And the next thing we want to do, right, is get into our off 16th, which is, see, that one's an off 16th, off 16th, off 16th. That's on, off, 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 off. See, I'm using mostly off 16ths, except for these two guys right here. So that means that I can just highlight the rest of these. And zoom in here, go to 1024th, shift them all to the right. And now we should have the same swing. And the thing with swing is it's so subtle, and especially when you're first starting out, it's very difficult to know, to just hear what's going on. You feel like you don't really hear a difference when you're adding the swing, but it's something that adds up over the track, and it's more so something that your ear will pick up when the swing is incorrect rather than like when you think it sounds good. So just keep working at it, keep training your ear, use some of these techniques to add some groove, some swing to your elements. We showed a couple things, right? We showed how can we take a loop, how can we find its groove, and how can we match it. We learned a little bit about how do we add swing, which is just by small differences in the off 16ths. And then we looked at how can we apply that to MIDI as well. So now we have small little offsets here. We have some good variation. We know that we got to go in and change our samples to allow that velocity change as well. So I'll kind of just leave that off here. Hopefully that was helpful. Let me know in the comments what you guys got from it. And then drop any questions that you have as well. Christian Miranda, what's up, man? Welcome. Bunch of SF homies. It's really exciting to see all the SF guys in here. Like, I really want this to be a place where we can kind of share and shape the sound of the dance music scene here, especially when we're all stuck inside too. It's one more way that we can have some of that community that we lost and that we haven't been able to enjoy these past few months. So good to see you guys out here. Anyways, let me know in the comments any questions you guys got. I'll answer. And let me go check my email really quick, see if I got any tunes for us to listen to. Oh, putting you on the spot. You got some whips. Okay. Okay, nothing in the inbox yet. So we'll just continue on then. Hey. Oh, okay. Groove pool. Good question. Honestly, I don't use the groove pool very often myself. I know a lot of people do, and I'm not necessarily against it either. So maybe this would have been a good example. Um, so we'll just duplicate it really quick. Listen to this version. So this is the one that I came up with. Um, let's just turn those all back up. Start from scratch. And now we can use the groove pool. So here's the groove pool. So make sure not in envelope mode. You get hot swap, pick some. I would recommend the MPC. This is a really good question. I'm glad you brought it up actually. So one thing I mentioned it earlier in house and techno, you're never going to use eighth swing. Eighth swing would be that instead of every off 16th being adjusted, every off eighth would be adjusted. So that'd be like your main open hat, and it's just kind of jarring. It doesn't really work with the genre. 16th swing works really well. 8th swing does not. So stay away from these MPC 8s and really look for these MPC 16ths. So you got like 50, which is very light swing, I believe, all the way up to 75, which I think is really late. These are really good ones to use. Just kind of go in, listen to them. Really, you're on hot swap mode, so just double click, right? Let's try like 55 here. Listen to it. So it definitely added some. And if you're ever curious, you can, I think, commit it. And now you can see the little variations that it created for me. It even made things shorter and longer, which is something that's useful. And it added this swing on the off 16th. So then, yeah, you can use that as a basis, right? And then if you don't like that one, just Command Z really quick, go pick another one. And I think what's really cool is that if you are doing this throughout your track, then as you are doing more and more tracks down the road throughout this project, you're gonna see the same grooves that you had selected here. So let's see, if I go to this one, I go to groove. Here's the same one, double up 55, so that at least I know that I'm using the same groove over and over. This is not a bad way to do it. I mean, sometimes maybe that'll just give you like an idea of some velocity values that you can use. There's even ways, I believe, to like come in here to this loop and extract the groove. Yeah, you can extract the grooves. So it will like create an Ableton groove profile for that sample, and you can try to do that. But I'm kind of just a technical guy. A technical guy. I like to get in close here, see what the actual value is. I'll just like write it down on a post-it note or on like a piece of paper where I'm keeping track of this track that I'm working on, and then I can always reference back to it anytime I'm working on my percussion, my groove elements, and say, oh, okay, I'm just gonna go forward 1/1024th because that's the swing value I'm sticking with. Cool. Got a question from Spicy Boys Clubs. Let's see. When you mess with MIDI clip MIDI, like dropping it out at the end, what's the keyboard process command? Can never remember. What do you mean dropping it out at the end? I'm a little unsure there. Oh, you mean like adding a fade? Okay, so so you're talking like when I was over here, right? Yeah. So when you press A, it's gonna switch right here. It's kind of tricky. So you have a couple things. A and M. This is all from Live 10. M is gonna turn on your MIDI keyboard. You can tell that it's activated up here. If your MIDI keyboard is activated, all these buttons aren't gonna work because it's like telling the keyboard to hit an A or a C or a G. It's not actually doing the keyboard shortcut. So you want to make sure that's off first. And now A will like switch between automation mode and non-automation mode. And when you're in non-automation mode is when you get these fades right here. So if they disappear, hit A. If A's not doing anything, click M first. This one hung me up for a long time till I saw a video by Lenny Kaiser. He explained it, and I felt like an idiot. It's typical. Cool. So yeah, hopefully that answered the question. Yeah, there you go. Anthony Zamota knows. Cool. So we got a little beat here. Wait, I think I have that duplicated. Make this a little bit longer. Just gonna have some fun here, see what I can get going. Group. Yep, good point. Can't put fades on MIDI like that. If you were going to do a MIDI, I recommend putting a utility onto your track and just doing fades with the volume on utility. Oh, you know what? Actually, I have a couple tips for you guys. One way to add groove to drums that people really overlook is by creating variation in the clap. And this is one that I really, really like to do. So here in the clap, I'm going to create a new track here above the clap. And what I'm going to do is get a reverse clap sample. I'll just get any clap. Definitely don't want trap snare clap. Maybe this one. Okay, and I'm going to reverse it. So you click this reverse button, and then you want to just drag this here in front. So something like that. So, okay. So now this is just a little reverse clap going into our clap. Sometimes you want to take off a little bit here. Sometimes you don't. Just make it sound good. And now you have that. You can do it. So like either every, like let's say every 4 claps, you'll do it for the first one, or maybe you do it for the last one, something like that. And you can barely hear it really, but it adds like a lot of energy and it sucks you into this beat. So you're kind of emphasizing this beat right here, this last quarter of 2 bars. You're saying I'm going to emphasize this beat. So maybe even you can have a double clap after that. Maybe I want it to be a faster one. maybe even 3 in a row. Sometimes I like to actually have it be the first one, so that imagine you have a big build here, and as soon as it drops, kick, whap, clap, like a big clap. It comes into your face, and then it like chills for the rest. And then after every 3 like soft claps, you'll have a 4th hard clap again. I love it. Lots of advice going on in the chat. I'm digging it. I'm digging it. So if you're working with just audio too, right? You don't have velocity in here. So literally just come in here and just change the volume. And what's really nice when you're doing audio is that you can see the waveforms change. So like this one, for sure, I don't want it to be full volume because it's a little off hit. Boom, ba-doom, boom, ba-doom. Yeah, yeah. I see you guys talking about the audio level. Definitely recommend like never automating this. Just use a utility. It's a lot better. Um, and I'm a huge fan of using like the racks and using my macros as well. Um, and what I mean by that is like maybe if I want, it's a good example, like this clap. Maybe I wanted to make the clap a little bit shorter. So what you could do, get a utility, right? And show automation in a new lane. You might do something like this. That's cool. And it'll work. And if it's fast, just go ahead and do it, right? But maybe you want some more control. So what you could do is Command G. We're going to map this to macro 1. Now you have the gain here and go to map. And what's really cool now is that over here in this map section, I can set the utility to say be max at 0 and minimum -2. Just an idea, -2, not -21. And then now, let's see, we get rid of this. Clear. Now that we have our gain knob that uses the macro, the highest volume will be 0 and the lowest will be -2. So now I could just make like a really quick ramp. And then I can just duplicate it. And it's just so much more pleasing to look at. Of course, if you have little off claps, don't screw those up. So there's some volume automation. But I really like using the map because then I can come fine tune this. And more importantly, if I had other things like if I added a filter to this, then you could start to put them together in the rack and say, okay, I want this frequency to be mapped to the same thing, except I don't want it to go all the way to 19. I want it to be like 10K, minimum of 3, and I want it to be off whenever the plugin is all the way down, right? So yeah, there's some cool versatility there. Oh, also, if you don't know, you can highlight a whole section like this, right click, and there's like these shapes here at the bottom, and you can get a really quick ramp that way as well, which in this case doesn't make sense. Yeah, cool little riser effect. MIDI fighter twister for Ableton. Never heard of that. Sounds cool. What do you use that for? DJ Tech Tools, huh? Fighter twister. I think what we need, honestly, is a vocal. Can I record in here while I'm streaming? External and configure. Yep. I can hear echo though. Yep. That was like the worst echo in my ear. Okay. Then let's go see what we can play around with.
My contemporaries, too legendary. Too legendary. Too legendary.
I got some Juanton music vocals. Oh, that's cool. They don't ever sound cool when I record them, but they sound a lot cooler when I'm done playing with them. Let's see. I'll record some Juanton vocals raw next time, and then we'll do some vocal manipulation. How about that? Because right now, essentially, what happens is that when I choose my microphone as an input, it becomes like an input for all the channels, and then you're hearing an echo from Ableton of my voice, as well as me not going through Ableton because I'm going through OBS as well for the stream. So it's just gonna create a crap ton of feedback and dissonance, which would be no bueno for our ears. So this is a pretty cool little Pac-Man sample pack I made myself. There's like a YouTube video or something that had all the samples from Pac-Man, so I just recorded the whole video and spent like 3 hours chopping it into single samples. But they're pretty sick. So let's play around with it. C3. Not 30 seconds, 16ths. Making your ears bleed is half of being a DJ, man. Just go to shows, blast your ears out, make them bleed, repeat. I'm really missing a bass. Gotta get a bass. Mm-hmm. We'll all get together when we're old and just point at the screen and talk really loudly over everybody else. It'll be great. I think Vengeance has some cool bass shots. That's nice. Ah, damn it. Sampler. See if I can get a bass down like 10 minutes here. And then we'll call it a day. Working samples. Root. Oh. So if we're in G, F would be 1 down. And then we'll go down 1. to make harmonic minor, right? Wait, G, F, so E. I think it's this one. D sharp. Let's make this 2 and loop. One thing I want to make sure too is these tracks that I put outside of my groups, they don't go to master chain, they go to straight master. So I'm going to send a master chain first. Make sure that if master chain is off, we shouldn't hear anything. Cool. That just makes sure everything's going through my limiter. So since I've been mixing into my limiter, one thing to just make sure is that just go ahead and mix into it as you're going. And if you start to hear artifacts, like maybe the compressor's going too hard, then that just tells you that something in your mix needs to get fixed. So typically it'd be like something needs to be saturated because it's got too much dynamics, probably compressed as well. So it's like peaking even though it's not at the volume that you want it. But as long as this is peaking, like, I mean, at most -6, your mix is doing pretty good. So I always come in here and check. So -5 at the highest points is okay. Apply our groove here to the bass as well. Why are these so low? Whoops. That's not good. Okay, so get there. Okay, so see, it wasn't set there. Filter. Now it's like coming way too hot into here. Oh yeah, because I made them like 100. Kind of cool. All right, guys. I think that packs it up. Didn't get any demos this week, so work on them tracks. Give me some demos next week. I'll bring a demo myself. Till then, guys, please keep working on music. Don't quit. Keep having a good time amongst these crazy days. Be nice to each other as always. Let me know in the comments or hit me up on Facebook, Instagram if there's something that you guys would like me to go over, you guys would like to see me work on in these coming weeks. I'm going to keep doing these as long as I can, every Monday, day in and day out, week in and week out, rather. But till next time, guys, keep producing. See you next time.